Hey guys, we're going to be talking about the beginning of American literature, which is American Lit from 1400 to 1800. As you can imagine, a lot of literature happened during those years, so we're going to be breaking this down into sections. So we're going to start today with the Native Americans. That's going to be our first section, okay? So you have guided notes. You should be following along as we go through these. So we're going to talk about the Native Americans before European immigration. Before the immigration of Europeans, America was populated by many Native American tribes that existed thousands of years ago, and each one had its own language and culture. And in early history, they did not have a written language, but they communicated their songs and poems through chanting, usually with instruments, and dancing, and that was known as oral tradition. So stories that were told generation to generation and passed along. And that was how they communicated. They also communicated with other items. They communicated with beads, bark. There were a lot of different ways they felt that they could keep these stories and pass them. In addition to songs, poems, and chants, they had something called creation myths, and that was very important to Native Americans. A creation myth is a symbolic narrative of how the world began and how people first began to inhabit it. The one you know probably the most is the Christian story of Adam and Eve, and the garden and the snake, and God created the world in 7 days. And so basically, you have how the world was made and how it came to be that we are the way we are. The concept of that original sin and how it changes how our world is today. That's a creation story. So it doesn't just have to be the world created. It could be why do we do something the way we do it. So that is a creation myth. So we're going to be reading a couple of those this marking period. Some common values you're going to see for many Native American tribes is that they are polytheistic. They believe in many gods, and it's not necessarily a single god. There's just everything can have some type of spirit in it. So that is definitely something that they value. Nature is for sure sacred and it's honored because, frankly, they have to live off of it. They are surviving because it's raining and because there's crops and a harvest and the elements, and they protect themselves from them, and they are grateful for the opportunities to do so. So nature is a very important thing, and you can see that because their poetry and their pieces are very nature-based, especially animals. Art is in practical objects that honor nature and the gods, like clothing, food, and storage containers, songs, and dances. And that the stories were told to preserve the culture. This is how they stayed culturally connected. Even though, like I said, every tribe has its own language and culture. So it's a way to see the differences in these cultures, but also to keep them for years to come. So some literary elements that you're going to see in Native American literature. You have personification, which you should for sure know by now, but it's essentially when you have animals, plants, and natural objects that are being personified. So the wind singing, the cloud crying. This is personification, and it's very prominent in Native American literature. You have dualism, which are things in nature being thought of as pairs, night and day, sun and moon, life and death, man and woman. These things work together, and they're seen as something that come as a pair. You can't have one without the other, and they work in sync together. Then you have 4 quarters, where the number 4 is considered sacred. You'll see this in the poetry. Maybe something will be repeated 4 times. Maybe it will actually say 4. Maybe it will talk about the directions, so north, south, east, and west. These are kind of the crucial 4 quarters elements. You have power of words. This is a very interesting one. They believed that words were magical, that you didn't just say them, that they were said with purpose, and that you could utter words to make actions happen, to ask for rain. It's the same idea as if you prayed aloud. You're praying aloud because you hope that what you say can happen, and they believed the same thing. It's called something as being incantatory, uttered to bring about the change described. So essentially, if you were to say something and ask for something, oh, let it be that you come, rain, that's them saying power of words. I believe these words will let the rain come. So they believed that their words had power to them. They believed very much in Father Sky and Mother Earth. The sun represented kind of the father figure. He gave the life-giving elements. He gave the rain and he gives the sun. and he kind of provides. And the earth, she receives those gifts and then creates life. And so there's kind of the mother and father role that they see. The concept of anonymity is really important. When you were to, if anyone in history writes a poem, they want to take credit for it, of course. You want your name attached to it so that you can get that work for yourself. They didn't believe in that because they weren't writing for themselves, they were writing for their tribe. So anonymity is key. They didn't care about putting their name, and frankly, how can you keep your name attached when these stories are being told over and over again? So anonymity was basically a way to say, I'm writing this for the good of the order, not for myself. Something you're going to see in the creation stories, often you have a trickster, a sneaky or deceptive figure in myths and legends that often bring about new knowledge, wisdom, or insights. Sometimes it can take the shape of an animal, a fox, because we consider foxes to be very sly, but in the end, they can do something very sly and sneaky, but bring about some big idea that makes you go, oh, interesting. Also symbols such as the sky, land, water, rain, lakes, and oceans. Those are big symbols that you're going to see in their pieces. So that's kind of your quick guide to Native American literature, and you'll get a better feel for it when you actually get to see what they look like with the creation stories and the poems. Thanks.